Before I begin to explain the process of configuring the Canary Labs OPC Collector, it will be important to make sure that we properly install the correct software components. So let's begin by covering the process of installing the OPC Collector. So first, you can download the Canary Labs system installer by opening the support page on the Canary website. Next, click on the version information option to access the link to download the installer for the most recent version of the Canary system. Once the installer has finished downloading, we can launch it to begin the installation process. So from the Canary system installer, we can select the necessary components to install on our machine. But before we do that, it is important to first understand where each Canary system component should be installed. In this basic architecture diagram, the OPC collector would be represented by the data collector label here. As a best practice, we recommend that the OPC collector be installed on the same machine as the data source, which in this case is the OPC UA server. So in this example, we have a small Windows machine that houses the OPC server, the OPC UA collector, and the sender service. Then we have the server machine, which resides in a different network layer, and it houses the receiver and the Canary Historian. Now, comparing the components in the installer to our diagram, we can focus first on the small Windows machine where the Canary OPC collector will be installed. So from my list of components under the data collector section, I can select the OPC UA component, which will then automatically select 4 other components that must also be installed. Right above it is the store and forward service. Then under the Historian server list is the Canary admin service, as well as the sender service. And then under our client tools, you can see the Canary admin client is also selected. So these 5 services are necessary to be installed on the collector machine. If we also needed to install the Historian on a server machine, just like in our diagram, then we would need to access the server machine and from the browser on the server, download the installer onto the server machine. Once we launch the installer on the Historian machine, we would go to the Historian server component list and check off the Historian component. This automatically selects the Canary admin service, the receiver, and virtual views. We often refer to the virtual views as simply the view service. So comparing the architecture diagram with the installer, these same 3 components are accounted for. So we have our receiver, the Canary Historian, and our view service. We will also need to have the Canary admin client tool installed on the server machine so the system admin can configure their Canary system. The admin client is always installed on the collector and server machine. So once I have the correct components selected, I can click the installation button to begin the installation process. So our system has successfully installed. Now we can go ahead and launch the Canary Administrator. We'll go to our Windows menu under the Canary folder. We see here is our Canary Admin. So the Canary Administrator application consists of different blue tiles that represent the installed Canary components. Each of these tiles can be clicked to launch the actual administrative module for that component. So we're going to focus our attention on the OPC Collector tile. This module is where we will create OPC UA logging sections in our next video. But before we end our first video, it's important that we understand the difference between a logging session and a logging group. So we always start by creating a logging session. And a logging session consists of 1 or more logging groups. Logging groups share common sample intervals as well as common deadbands. We recommend that a logging session be configured to send data to only one data set in the Historian. If I wanted to send data to more than one data set in the historian, then we should create another logging session specific to that other data set.